Hi everyone and welcome to this week's edition of Straight Talk with Bren O'Brien and Tim Rowe from The Straight, brought to you by our sponsors Darley and Inglis. Today we talk about new stallions, both made here and imported, including a chat with Rosemont Stud's Ryan McEvoy. We talked to Inglis's Bret Gilding about the upcoming Easter Yearling Sale. The future of race clubs is very much on the agenda. We've got the latest on Rosehill, plus an interview with VRC Chief Executive Kylie Rogers, and we look at the most wagered on races in Australia each year and reflect on the impact of Bet365, both globally and locally. Tim, it was a marquee day for a couple of major breeding operations last Saturday. Firstly, Emirates Park with their third Golden Slipper winner in 11 years in their colours, a remarkable achievement for them. Mahuna proving homebred for a few generations, fantastic result for them. But perhaps more valuable than a $5 million race was a win in the William Reid from Schwarz for Rosemont and their partners. A significant result for them. Obviously, you spoke to Ryan McEvoy, and we'll go to speak to Ryan in a minute about sort of the importance of that. But from your perspective, Tim, you know, a win like that, what does it do for an aspiring stallion?
For Rosemont, first of all, I think it was just, congratulations to them, Nigel Austin, Anthony Mithun, and they brought along a lot of partners, Free for Scander, and huge group syndicate behind that Colts fund to actually get a big result. Yes, they've had stalls already at Stardust on a Schnitzel, but to get a colt like Schwarz that they've had huge belief in from the outset, before he'd even raced, I know John O'Shea, the trainer or co-trainer with Tom Charlton now, told Rosemont team that he'd rather keep the horse than going to have the money, which was $1.25 million, so a significant amount of money. They've had belief all the way through, and it just panned out on Saturday. The right race. He's 2 from 2 at Mini Valley. He's got early speed. He's by Zoostar, who's hit the front in the general size premiership and, possibly, would be favourite to win it this year for the first time. He's got a very good pedigree, so his appeals there massive, and is massive for breeders in Victoria, and I think he had huge support at Stud. If he does race again or doesn't race again, it doesn't really matter, but just vindication for what Rosemont have been doing. As I said, spent, 20 million, I think it is, a significant amount of money, and to get where they are. And actually their results aren't bad. We're quite critical and harsh in this industry, but they've got Bazasto in their third crop. So they've got some nice horses coming through and done a very good job. And as I said, it all panned out at the Valley on Saturday for Schwarz and Rosemont.
Yeah, when in this, this Colts sort of fund model, you are rolling the dice. You're getting you're buying X amount of horses with the hope you'll get one or two decent stallions out of it that'll pay for the rest. And that's the way that it works. And I think Rosemont, the pressure was on a little bit because, they hadn't really unveiled a Group 1 winning stallion as yet. Where does he sit, Schwarz? In terms of we're talking about the horses going to stud this season or likely to go to stud this season, and you feel those are going to be announced over the next few weeks, Tim. But where does Schwarz sit, do you feel, in terms of, I guess value probably for one thing, where does he sit in price range, but also where does he sit in terms of, I guess, a market appeal?
He didn't, they looked after him. He didn't race at 2, but, he raced on 3 at 4, very, very competitive in a lot of races, and obviously won the Group 1 on Saturday. I think, everyone, Zoostar Sideline seems to be going well. Zusain's doing a good job. I think, value-wise, it'd be interesting to see how they price him. Ryan, as you might hear in the interview, that Ryan said they'll be conservative with his service fee, just the way the market is. If he probably went to stud 2 or 3 years ago, they probably would have shot high with him and priced him quite high because that's where the market was at. But I think they're going to look after breeders. They've got a big syndicate behind him, so he will importantly get numbers behind him to give him a chance. And he's a fabulous looking horse, so if he throws that stock, that physique and conformation into his foals and yearlings, the better ones will sell very well, I imagine, at this stage. And so, commercially, he stacks up very well.
Yeah, and I think from a marketing advertising point of view, those front running type of stallions often are easy to market because the race replays always look so spectacular. And he was a dominant winner there on Saturday. I know there was talk about some issues with track bias and all that type of stuff, but he was a dominant winner. And, clearly is a horse that's, it's got a tremendous amount of speed, which is such an asset in the Australian market. Yeah, and obviously you chatted with Ryan McEvoy, who's, a key player there at Rosemont. And the first question is on the success of the Rosemont syndicate.
I'm reasonably satisfied with, that, relative to the numbers we buy, which is, in the context of sort of other sort of colt syndicates out there, we've probably bought the lowest number. It's sort of average of maybe sort of a dozen yearlings each year. Obviously, in that first year, it started really well. Brereton Mullane, sort of early stakes winning 2-year-olds. Dual Group 2 winner and ends up on a stallion roster. Second year, Schwarz, Group 1 winner, stallion prospect. Third year, Bazusto, Guineas winner, and hopefully, hopefully a stallion prospect down the line. So, and in amongst them, there's other good stakes winners and sort of positive stories. Trade horses to Hong Kong that have been profitable. So, of course, there's some slow ones there that you regret, but overall, it's been it's been a pretty satisfying sort of record.
I guess I'm sure it is an advantage with your stallions that are going to stud. Well, your second one now with Schwarz, that there's a big syndicate behind him with, and breeders that will, I imagine, hopefully support him, not just year 1, but 2, 3 and 4, and, hopefully he's away then.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, and got a great bunch of partners in the horse with us, from Sharifa Scout to Bruce Wilson's Glentree Farm, Rosemont Stud, New South Wales. To name just a few, not to mention, Nigel Austin, obviously, who's the majority shareholder, and certainly made no secret of his desire to send as many of his quality mares to the horse. So, I think, I'm excited as to the level of, the patronage you'll get, but the quality of mare, given the strength of the breeders involved in him. So it's it's cool, and I just can't wait to when we one day do, when we do eventually have him at the farm, just showing the breeders I reckon he's a rock star and he'll blow everyone away.
Meanwhile, Tim, we had a couple of interesting shuttle stallion announcements this week. 2 of the biggest farms in Australia, Coolmore and Arrowfield, confirmed their imports, or the new imports for this year. Talk us through those couple of decisions. Interesting times. I mean, one's probably not unexpected. The Coolmore one was City of Troy, but Arrowfield's probably come from slightly left field in their selection.
Start with Van Dijk. He won 4 races as a 2-year-old in France. Prix Mornay, that Shalar, interestingly enough, won that race, and that's the last European shuttler that Arrowfield brought out, and he's now at Woodside, and Mornington Glory Group 1 winner. He's actually, Shalar's doing a great job and winner getter week in, week out. So far from a failed stallion there, I wouldn't suggest that. So, as we know, the colts market's very competitive. That's why there is these colt syndicates like Rosemont, as we just touched on, trying to get their next stallion, because buying them is either incredibly expensive or they're just not available because they're already owned by studs. So obviously John Massara and Arrowfield aren't immune to chasing international or shuttling stallions. They've obviously targeted Japan a lot over the last decade or so with Morris and even before that, and Europe now with Van Dijk and Cheverly Park Stud partnering with them. He's a sprinter, as I said, 4-time winner at 2-year-old, and he's out, importantly, I guess, by Havana Grey, but he's out of an Exceed and Excel mare. So that just provides a bit of familiarity for the breeders in the market that, okay, that's the style of horse he is, that he's the strong sprinting type, will suit the Australian market and potentially, be lining up in the, 2- and 3-year-old sprints and William Reeds and all those sort of, the money that's on offer.
City of Troy's a fascinating one from Coolmore. Obviously, he's a superstar in the Northern Hemisphere. I mean, it's clearly a son of Justify. Obviously, we won't see Justify come back down under. Justify probably defied all predictions to be champion first season sire in Australia. He wasn't a 2-year-old, literally didn't race as a 2-year-old himself. City of Troy's got much greater credentials when it comes to his 2-year-old form, doesn't he?
Sure, and he's, I think people will tell you that early tactical speed that he possessed is heritable. I mean, that's right. He 3 from 3 as a 2-year-old, smashed his rivals, including in the Dewhurst that Too Darn Hot won that race, and obviously he's doing great things at the moment down here and in the Northern Hemisphere. There's been, I guess, while we're looking for the next Australian stallion to come through under Schnitzel and Written Tycoon and Zoostar for that matter, the shuttle stallions are standing up, Witten Bassett, Too Darn Hot, there's Pinatubo coming through. And so I guess the market will, obviously Coolmore will get behind him. A very confident City of Troy's got the record physique and just that it's complete downhill outcross. So pretty much nearly every mare can go to him, and they're confident that he might be the next one to leave a mark. And obviously with Justify not coming back, he's the next sideline and the best son to go to stud so far by Justify.
Okay, we're lucky to have with us Inglis Bloodstock sales manager and auctioneer extraordinaire, Bret Gilding. Bret, thanks for joining us. We're 10 days out from the biggest show of the year, the Easter Yearling Sale. Exciting time of year. What does the build-up feel like there at Inglis ahead of an Easter sale?
Yeah, look, there's a great buzz around the office. Obviously, it's our showpiece event every year in terms of selling yearlings. And the chairman's is obviously in regards to selling mares, that's our showpiece event. But yeah, look, everyone's very excited. It's been great over the last 12 months to see the graduates which have come out of the sale, Switzerland, Lady Shenandoah, Autumn Glow, for example. And that gives you great excitement knowing that there's horses like that that'll be on the parade grounds next week for people to find. We all like to look at them ourselves, and obviously as an auctioneer, I'm fortunate enough to sell a number of them, but you're always trying to find the next champion. And yeah, look, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Trying to find fast racehorses, fast racehorses, and obviously Easter's delivering that year in, year out. And we're very excited to be offering the catalogue to the world come Sunday week here at Riverside.
Bret, I guess everyone's looking for the next new stallion to come through, but Easter's got, it's a safer bet in a lot of ways because you do have a great pedigrees, proven size, and as last weekend's racing proved, Schnitzel won his third slipper winner. Schwarz won the William Reed by Zoo Star, and you've got great representation by those proven stallions that just do it year in, year out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what people expect when they come to Easter. They expect to see the best pedigrees. Certainly in the Southern Hemisphere and in a lot of cases of the world, they expect to see a large proportion of the catalogue made up by proven stallions. They come here and buy with confidence off the best farms in Australasia, the likes of Arrowfield, Widden, Newgate, Coolmore, etc. We've got a great contingent coming over from New Zealand, Cambridge Farm and Cambridge Stud, have got 5 yearlings, including a half-sister to IME. Alveston Park, Lipitania, sending a beautiful draft of 5 over, and I'm Invincible out of Lucia Valentina. Brent Taylor's got a half-sister to Shanwan being presented at the sale. So it's not only captures the best in Australia, it also captures the best in New Zealand. And that's what people expect when they come here. Like we've got progeny out of 39 individual Group 1 winning mares in the sale. We've got half brothers or sisters or full brothers or sisters to 36 Group 1 winners, and that's what people expect to see. They come to find the best of the best, and we love putting this catalogue together. We love seeing those beautiful horses the farms present, and hopefully they can sell well, and then obviously go on to be the next champions of the turf.
Right, you've been looking at these yearlings on farm for probably since they were foals. You get to see them all the way through and they develop. And I mean, there must be a sense of, I guess, you come back and see these horses again, and you see them develop, and you get a sense of them developing and coming through. I mean, talk to us about your over impression of the quality of horses on offer at Easter, and in terms of just the physical presence and how they develop, and what we can expect when inspections begin next week.
Yeah, look, the farms obviously do a magnificent job with this as well. The vendors that are selling at Easter, they know the type of yearling you need to bring to the Easter Yearling Sale to get the best result. And, the reality is the likes of, Arrowfield and Coolmore and Widden, etc., they bring their best yearlings they breed every year to Easter. So, look, we love going on to the farms. I think we looked at around 320 horses at one day at Widden back there in August. And, we saw them a few weeks ago on the farm again and how they've progressed. And, they really do kick on. And those preparers, as I said, they know the quality they need to bring to Easter. And so it's great for us. Sometimes we get to see them 3 or 4 times. Sometimes we see them once on the farm and then at the complex. So you're really putting a lot of faith and trust in the vendors. They've been doing it for a long time. Of course, we're a part of the story. We love looking at them and advising where they may be best sold. But ultimately, when it comes to the quality that people put forward to Easter, it's normally spot on. So you just, you can throw all sorts of different words at it, but Easter's just different gravy. when you walk out there and you see a full brother to Switzerland, you go, wow, like have a look at this colt. Obviously, the full brother made $1.5 million a few years ago, and he's turned into be a Group 1 winner. So it really does get the blood pumping.
But it's one thing to, put the catalogue together and get the vendors to support the Easter sale as they do each and every year, but also part of your job is to make sure you get the buying bench there willing and with the budgets to justify buying these horses, because they are, cost a lot of money to breed, obviously. How's the buying bench coming together, particularly, I guess, any international names and so forth that have booked their flights?
Yeah, look, the buying bench is looking fantastic. So Craig Ramsey will be here representing Mr. Owen Heffer from Hollywood Bets in South Africa. The Bourbon Lane Street team from America will be here. The usual agents we get from the UK. There'll be good representation here from Hong Kong as well. So a lot of Kiwis come over to the sale. So look, we're very, very pleased with the buying bench we've established so far. But I think what people need to keep in the back of their minds is, like last year at Easter, we sold close to 150 horses for under $250,000, and 100 horses made under $200,000. There's great value at Easter. Sometimes you can, look at the sale and see all the $1 million lots and the high average, etc. But, we've sold Group 1 winners for under $200,000 at Easter, Mizzy, Overpass, Aristia, Exceedance, Natoya, Funstar. These horses all made $200,000. So yes, don't get me wrong. It's great when you see an Autumn Glow who tops the sale a few years ago come out and do what she does, and the likes of Switzerland make all the money. But, we really push the message to syndicators, to trainers, to owners out there that, look, obviously the best of the best is at Easter, but it is affordable. If you come here with your $100,000 to $200,000 and you're looking to buy a colt and a filly, there will be, 40% of the catalogue that will slot into that price bracket. So it is really a sale that anyone can be involved in. You've got to do the work. You've got to get out here on the grounds. We'll have a value list that will release sort of Thursday, Friday next week. So that'll be for all the horses that the vendors believe fit into the $200,000 or less category. We circulate that to anyone. It's available on our website. So you can come to the sale, look at that list, pull out the horses that might be making between $100,000 and $200,000 and obviously look to bid away in the ring. So we really push that message. We certainly don't want people to think that they can't buy at Easter. Obviously, there's going to be some magnificent horses that make a lot of money, but there's going to be plenty of horses that also, make up to that $200,000 mark, which can turn into a Pinot or an Egg Tart or a Mizzy. There's countless examples of Group 1 winners under that bracket.
Make sure you send us the list, Bret. The straight might be travelling well by then, will we, Bren?
We'll see how we go, Tim. We'll see if we get I don't know if we're quite in that budget range still yet, Tim, but maybe in the years to come, the straight bloodstock might take off. Bret, thanks so much for your time. All the best with the sale next week. It's such an exciting time of year, isn't it? It's a really a sense of anticipation ahead of this sale. It's an event in itself. Obviously, last year was extraordinary. This year will have its own flavour of the way things are going to play out. But all the best for you and the team in Inglis. I'm sure you guys will kick it out of the park.
Thank you very much. And obviously, it's free to come along. So anyone who wants to head out to Riverside or Warwick Farm Sunday week, we'd be most welcome. You are most welcome, and we look forward to seeing everyone out here.
Okay, Tim, let's chat racing. And we're only a week away now of the most important vote about Rosehill, of course. We've talked about this issue a lot, so we'll only touch on a few of the aspects around it, Tim, because I'm wary there's a little bit of Rosehill fatigue out there at the moment when you talk to people. Understandably, if anyone should have Rosehill fatigue, it's probably us. We've written the word Rosehill 9,558 million times over the last 15 months. But anyway, look, I just want to point out this one thing. Significantly, the ATC confirmed at the straight this week that the second proposition on the Rosehill vote, which is a replacement of a Group 1 track for Rosehill, doesn't necessarily mean that there'll be a whole new site as a racecourse. So if the ATC decide to upgrade Warwick Farm to a Group 1 track, and it can be wholly upgraded, pretty much Pen McGoran spoke about, I think it was on this podcast last week, raising Warwick Farm and rebuilding it into a Group 1 track, then that could be considered a suitable and new site in terms of Group 1 racing. And then a new site, if it was to be acquired, would then be primarily used for training and then possibly developed into a racetrack in time. It seems an important distinction, sort of in detail, relatively late in the process, doesn't it?
Yeah, there just seems to be the messaging changing on the run. It's very. I'm not a member. I've declared I'm not an ATC member. So, but it'd be very hard to vote with conviction, knowing exactly what is happening, because Warwick Farm was deemed not up to standard, and couldn't be redeveloped now. And Peter McGoran said it can, and now potentially be that Group 1 track. Yeah, it's just the messaging keeps changing. I'm sure the ATC and the Cold Light of Day will admit they haven't done a great job of communicating all this. So it'll be just whether they've done enough for those proponents advocating for the sell, whether they've done enough come next Thursday to get it over the line, time will tell. But yeah, just certainly the messaging, the PR exercise hasn't been well handled, and a lot of confusion out there that the ATC hasn't done a great job of unmuddying the waters.
And the waters have been muddied.
Better term.
Yeah, and the waters have been muddied by the opponents, and deliberately muddied to a certain extent. I understand that that's a reasonable strategy. Like if you're getting a no vote and you get to the point and you go, well, if you don't know, you got to vote no, sort of thing. That's a strategy they've employed. Now, whether the ATC are very frustrated with the way that's being done, but that's the dirt of politics. It's a very the process is not clear. I've written an article on the Stroke talking about this. So we'll leave talk about Rosehill for now. But I think that the key is that very hard for people to vote positively for a proposal when there is not absolute clarity about that proposal. The ATC say the two proposals are absolutely clear, but as our questions to them reveals, that there's nuances within that. Anyway, there's a whole article there to read about it. If you still want to read about Rosehill, you haven't made up your mind yet and you're an ATC member, I urge you to do your research, to look around and to work out what is the best for you going forward. There are still a lot of questions to be answered about Rosehill. That's the nature of this vote because of the timing. I think if the ATC could buy themselves another 12 months and have the vote in 12 months' time and prosecute this case a lot better, they probably would, but they can't do it because the government need an answer now. So the situation they find themselves in, the way things work. While we're talking about clubs, and interesting chat, I had a extensive chat with Kylie Rogers yesterday from the Victoria Racing Club. Obviously, the VRC have had significant financial challenges as well, including significant losses, $24 million, the headline number. When Kylie Rogers came into this job, she sort of knew what she had to deal with, and she spent a bit of time talking through that. What was interesting, just talking about that first 6 months. Yeah, and here's the chat with Kylie Rogers about how she's approached her time so far in the role.
I knew what I was going into.
Yeah.
And the job was pretty clear for me, and that was to revitalise our club and work hard to drive profitability, to improve culture, and set a really clear purpose and strategy for our business to thrive.
Yeah.
And, every day, to be truthful, has been a challenge, but with every challenge is an opportunity. And it is my job to ensure the VRC in Flemington Place is a thriving precinct, a profitable precinct, and we put our members at the heart of that. And that's what I'm focused on.
I mean, you had to restructure, you had to let people go, you had to make a host of changes. I mean, those things are difficult, but how confident that now where you sit sort of 6 months in, I suppose, or a bit longer than 6 months in, that you sort of are on that right track to where you need to be?
It's interesting you asked that today, because for the first time since I arrived on the 1st of September, I had a moment today where I felt like, I think we can do this.
Yeah.
I felt really positive. You're right. I arrived within 6 weeks of our carnival.
Yeah.
And our carnival is our core product, and we had to get that right. So we were very busy ensuring we had the right execution and the right plan to deliver what thankfully became our greatest and safest carnival in 8 years. Increased crowds, increased ratings, increased NPS, 45% of our GA tickets are under 35. You name it, we delivered it, and importantly, safe, great racing.
Yep.
We got through that. Then I had to work on, well, what is our 3-year strategy? How do we become profitable? How do we put our members at the heart of everything? How do we ensure we're activating our precinct 365 days a year? What is our purpose?
Yeah.
And so I put a presentation and a strategy to the board, which was supported and ratified by the board. And then to be able to deliver on that strategy, I needed the right people sitting in the right places doing the right things. Therefore, we underwent a really tough organisational restructure.
Yeah.
And no secret, a very clear cost management plan. Why are we spending to the levels we are spending? How much does it cost to deliver race day? Are those numbers right? And we're still going through that cost management program.
And as mentioned, Tim, that full feature will be on the straight later this week. Tim, I guess the issue with race clubs, we've got parallels all over the world. You covered a story for us this week about Penang Race Club. Now, the land the club sits on is worth so much money, it makes no financial sense for the club to continue. So it's highly likely that on April 20th, they'll vote to sell Penang Racecourse, and the last meeting will probably be the last week of May. It's just the reality of race clubs these days that if they can't find viable business models, the asset-rich, cash-poor aspect of them means that the assets just have to be cashed in on, and it's just this tension that sort of exists, isn't it?
Malaysia or Penang, there's a few little different issues that, say the VRC or particularly ADC don't have to deal with. Certainly their revenue from gambling, there's no TABs or just rocking up to the pub to put your bets on. Gambling's obviously not illegal there, but it's not easy. There's no online gambling or legal online gambling. There's the illegal exchanges, Citybet, that people would have heard of, those sort of things. But in terms of, if you want to bet, you've got to go to the track and things like that. And Penang, you've got to have passionate people. They've struggled for a long time having four races on a card with, maybe 5 horses in a race and things like that. That's not sustainable. They voted last year to look at selling that and call for tenders to sell the land. They rejected the tenders, but now they're going, regardless, to a vote on April 20 to dissolve the club, which would mean the assets, including the land, are all sold. And where this is different, I guess, to the ATC, I'm sure we'd get a different result if this applied to the ATC, 11,000 members, is that the proceeds of the sale, after all debts and different things are paid off and employee entitlements are met, the millions of dollars and ringgit would be distributed to the 520 members. So, like the likelihood that they vote against or vote to keep the racetrack going is just won't happen when you think each member's probably entitled to $1 million Aussie dollars plus, you would think. And that there is a few Australians who are members of that club have been paying their membership fees for years and decades, so they're going to reap the financial rewards of that, even though I'm sure they're sad that their potential annual holiday to the Penang races will be no longer.
Okay, it's now time for our daily stat of the week. Harry Angel is the name on everyone's lips. Another huge weekend, he just keeps delivering. One of only 7 stallions in Australia to crack $10 million in earnings this season. The youngest to do it and still ruling the third season size table. On Saturday, Private Harry stormed home in the Galaxy and now has his sights set on the TJ Smith with the ultimate goal of the best sprint race in Australia, the Everest. Harry Angel, fast, elite, unstoppable. Finally, in the wagering landscape, Tim, we have been working on a list of the most wagered races in Australia. Hopefully getting an article out in the next few days. Trying to get a bit of a hold on, we probably know where some of it sits. And I mean, we're talking to a few of the WSPs. Look, they're not necessarily coming forward with numbers per se for each race, but they are coming forward with a list of the top 10, which is interesting enough. We're building that out, and hopefully in the next few days, we'll have a bit more detail around that. In our research so far, Tim, there have been a couple of themes. I wanted to broach a couple of them. First of all, top 4 seemingly locked in across the providers we've spoken to. No matter who we talk to, the order changes slightly in that top 4, but it's Melbourne Cup clearly on top. A big gap to Cox Plate, the Caulfield Cup, and the Everest. Now, the order of those does mix up a little bit. The Everest is third on some, it depends how things work out. But we sort of get a really clear idea of where these races sit. Now, that's probably not surprising. But what is maybe surprising to me is you look at the top 10s we've got so far from each of the WSPs, Tim. Very, very few, maybe 1 or 2 mentions of autumn races in there. Pretty much exclusively that 4-week period between when the Everest run and when the last day, the Stakes Days run, is when all the turnover happens. Well, what does that tell you, Tim, about sort of where racing sits in turnover and wagering perspective? And is it worthwhile fishing so strongly in autumn, knowing that all the money's spent in 4 weeks in spring?
think administrators have known this for a long time. This is why Peter V'landys and came up with the Everest, wanting to pitch after the footy season those 4 to 6 weeks of capturing the recreational punter money, I guess, before they're distracted by cricket and after the footy. And I still advocate you still need a good the autumn carnival, as we're heating right up in Sydney, is fantastic racing. Just there's distractions for the recreational punter with the footy and so forth. I don't think we should be moving everything to those 4 weeks and sacrificing the rest of the year, but it just shows that the recreational punter money is only is distributed elsewhere outside those 4 weeks because they've got other things to do.
Yeah, exactly right. It is interesting. There's more detail on that story. I also urge you to check out a piece we have up there on Bet365. They're an interesting player within Australia. Probably not, obviously got, it's what I'm looking for. They've got profile in terms of advertising and stuff, but we don't see a lot from them because they're a privately owned company. We don't get regular updates. Notice from the straight, we often do updates on where Sportsbet, Intains, those Ladbrokes are at, or PointsBet and Bluebet and these publicly listed companies because they're mandated to do. But because Bet365 are a private company, they don't have to publish their regular updates. They do publish through the various entities. They need to some annual stuff, which is probably a little bit delayed. But what is interesting, they've moved out of China this week, Bet365, and they're now much more focused on the United States, which is now becoming a regulated market. And we're able to do some research on their footprint in Australia, which was interesting enough of where they sit in terms of the market. A couple of people have asked where they sit within Australia. It's not evidently clear unless you look into their books. It's probably about that 5% mark. But I guess, with these global players, and Bet365 are a global player. Don't forget, Samuel L. Jackson was telling us for a long time there that they were the biggest sports betting company in the world. It's fascinating to sort of see how Australia fits into their global strategy. Obviously, America, Brazil is another market. I think Italy is another market which has got a lot of upside at the moment. Australia is a mature market, but it still plays an important role for these big players too.
Sure, the 365 SP guarantee was fantastic while it lasted there a few years ago. They should give it back, given the way I've been travelling lately. But look, 365. Because they are a private company, there's always rumours and what are they doing? Are they staying in Australia? But as you say, they are a big company and they do have I would argue, I imagine, a significant customer base because everyone's at some stage would have had a 365 account because some of their offers were and promotions and stuff were too hard to ignore. Yeah,
it's an interesting one, isn't it? The others tend to publish what they call their AMPs, or average monthly players. Bet365 reports don't necessarily have that within them, so it's a bit harder to sort of find out exactly where that sits. But I think their footprint in Australia is fascinating. They've also got an AUSTRAC investigation hanging over them at the moment, which could impact things as well. We've spoken about the challenges that Entain face out. Sportsbet have also got an undertaking with AUSTRAC at the moment. So, the regulatory aspect of Australia is certainly some of the challenge for these major players. Okay, thanks for joining us on Straight Talk for this week. Brought to you, of course, by our fantastic sponsors, Darley and Inglis. And it was great to have Bret Gilding on the program to chat through the Inglis Easter Yearling Sale. Don't forget to give us a rating wherever you're listening to our podcast. And be sure to subscribe. Send us an email at editor@thestraight.com.au or a message through social if you want us to discuss any issues on this podcast. And we'll talk to you again next week from the Easter Yearling Sale. We'll talk to you then.